EssayShark is happy to help you get to know the books of famous writers. We offer you to immerse yourself in the world of Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged. This book has become a favorite among a huge list of famous people with millions of fortune. Let's start with a short synopsis. Atlas Shrugged is written about the dark times of the United States in which private businesses suffered from onerous laws and regulations. Railroad manager Dagny Taggart and her lover, tycoon Hank Rearden, fight against marauders who want to exploit their production. At its core, Atlas Shrugged is a book in support of free market capitalism and against socialism. However, it also introduces philosophical ideas about how to become a more effective person. Who is Ayn Rand, and how did she create a bestseller? Alice Rosenbaum Ayn Rand was born in pre-revolutionary St. Petersburg into a wealthy Jewish family. When the Bolsheviks requisitioned the pharmacy belonging to her father, they fled to Crimea. Alice returned to attend university, but in 1926 relatives who had already settled in America invited her to join them. With the money received from selling her mother's jewelry, Alice bought a ticket to New York. She quickly moved to Hollywood, where she learned English. Alice worked in the wardrobe department of RKO and the makeup department. She also worked at night on screenplays and novels. In these novels, she presented the idea of objectivism. Objectivism influenced various other movements, such as libertarianism. After getting acquainted with the writer and a short description of Atlas Shrugged, it becomes clear why the book turns the reader's mind. Listen to the book's plot to know precisely what to write in your essay or support an intellectual conversation. The action of the book unfolds during a period of worsening economic conditions. America's operations are run by a vice president, a woman named Dagny Taggart, and her current goal is to repair the Taggart Transcontinental Railroad from Rio Norte to Colorado. In this novel, Colorado remains the only area in the country that still benefits from the industrial business. The railroad crisis worsened when the Mexican government nationalized the Taggart Line through San Sebastian. At first, Francisco was a successful industrialist, but as he got older, he became just a worthless playboy. He was Taggart's lover. Taggart's brother, Jim, tried to solve the railroad's financial problems with his political influence. In particular, he is trying to pass legislation to destroy Taggart's only competitor in Colorado permanently. Taggart uses Rearden's new metal to repair the Rio Norte line. Taggart also confronts her lover, Francisco, about his involvement in the San Sebastian mines. However, Francisco points out that he deliberately destroys Danconia's copper to help Taggart. The disaster occurred after Taggart invested in Rearden's metal. The State Scientific Institute issues a rebuke to the metal. Over time, Taggart loses considerable wealth and influence, so she decides to start her own company to build the line herself. At this time, Taggart moves away from Francisco and begins a romantic relationship with the metal inventor Rearden. Together they found an engine that was able to run on static electricity. Impressed by the innovativeness of this work, they both sought to establish the inventor's identity. The government continued to hinder the industrial business. New legislation cripples the Colorado industry. An oil industrialist named Ellis Wyatt suddenly disappears. The police conclude that he set fire to his wells, but the circumstances are suspicious. Wyatt won't be the only industrialist to disappear. Later, the metal inventor, Rearden, is imprisoned for violating one of the government's new laws. However, he refuses to participate in the trial. Moreover, he tells the judges they cannot force him to plead guilty, so they let Rearden go. Economic dictator Wesley Motch needs the cooperation of Rearden to create a new set of socialist laws. He can get him to cooperate by talking to Rearden's wife. She knows that Rearden had an affair with Taggart, so she gives Motch this information for money. Motch uses this information to blackmail Rearden into agreeing to a new set of laws. Rearden agrees to hand over his metal to protect Taggart's reputation. She tells him that Rearden and Dagna are having an affair, and he uses that information in the deal. After introducing new laws, Taggart resigns from the company and retires to a mountain cabin. She receives a letter from a man who fears that he will be the next target of the destroyer. Trying to protect him and get to the bottom of the mystery, Taggart follows his plane in his private plane, which crashes in the mountains. Taggart loses consciousness for a while and then comes to a remote valley where all the retired industrialists live. Here, Taggart finds a man named John Galt, whom she learns is both a wrecker and the man who built the engine she was struck by in an abandoned warehouse. Taggart falls in love with Galt. However, she cannot leave her railroad, so she leaves the valley to go back to work. It returns to the nationalized railway industry. Government leaders suggest that Taggart make a speech to reassure the public. At first, she refuses, but Mach blackmails her with compromising material. To the government's surprise, she goes on air to proudly announce her affair with Reardon. In addition, she says that the government blackmailed her. After this speech, politicians no longer pretend to work for the good of society. The new nationalization also creates chaos as crops rot while waiting for trains to be diverted for personal use. The government stages a riot at Reardon Steel to gain control of Francisco's factories. Francisco worked in factories undercover. Francisco saves Reardon's life and then convinces him to join the strike. John Galt makes a lengthy address to the country. Galt lays out the terms of the strike he organized. Desperate, the government seeks out Galt to make him its economic dictator. However, Galt decides to return to the valley. It formally becomes part of their strike. Without the industrialists, the outside world would fall apart. After the demise of the outside world, the industrialists slowly returned and began to rebuild their world. Check out our social media accounts and podcasts to discover a variety of engaging and valuable content.